Hey everyone, and welcome to the Next Gen 2020 show with the Zone and Goal. If you ever wondered who will be the next Messi, Ronaldo or Neymar, this is the place to find out. Joining me first is Peter Staunton from Goal. It's a pleasure.
Thank you, Alex.
And Tom Maston, the brain behind the list. What can you tell us about the list?
That's right, yeah. We're looking at the 50 best teenage footballers in the world born in or after 2001. We spoke to journalists from around the world, Goal journalists. We came with a list of over 100 names. And from there, we had to whittle it down to what we regarded as the best 50 and then try and rank them, work out who the absolute best ones are.
Peter, Tom already mentioned it, this Goal network. How big is it?
It's very big. So we're a team of about 500 correspondents and journalists all over the world. We've got 38 editions in 18 different languages. So that just gives you an idea of the expertise and the reach of the Goal network in putting together a list like this.
Okay, so let's get it started. Let's have a look. Who's our first player on the list?
From the 50 stars on the Next Gen list, we start our focus on number 46. And what a name it is.
The first player from our list we want to talk about might have one of the most famous names in European football. His name is Daniel Maldini. His father and his grandfather played for Milan. They were both defenders, but Daniel, he's got a different playing style, right?
He does. He's very much a wide forward, is Daniel Maldini, obviously coming from, like you say, that famous European dynasty. He made his debut at the start of the 2020 for the Milan first team. Obviously, heaps of pressure on him, playing in that red and black Rossoneri shirt with the name Maldini on his back. But he looks like the signs are that he can grow into maybe not that iconic player that his relatives were, but certainly a very, very good player for the Milan first team.
And he's got a lot of stars around him. Does he have enough playing time?
Possibly not at the minute. Obviously, the arrival of Zlatan Ibrahimovic at San Siro has limited his opportunities and potentially he could go out on loan. But Milan like him, he played a lot in pre-season, so they clearly see a lot in him. And having that name was obviously helped sell shirts if they do keep him on.
Dropping down 2 places, a young man making waves in Germany.
Our next young talent is the youngest player ever to both score and appear in the UEFA Youth League. His name is Youssoufa Moukoko. In Germany, I can tell you everybody is talking about Youssoufa. He's a great talent. What can you tell us about him?
Yeah, a massive talent. His father was working in Hamburg and he eventually brought the family over from Cameroon when Youssoufa was just a young boy. And he made waves in the St. Pauli Youth Academy, and it wasn't long before he was picked up by a massive club in Germany, and that was Borussia Dortmund. He's going through the youth ranks really, really quickly at Dortmund, to such an extent that even though he's only 15, they're already talking about getting him special dispensation so he can actually play nighttime matches in the Bundesliga when he's eligible to play there when he turns 16 next year.
But I mean, Tom, it's not easy to get that much attention at that age, right?
No, but I suppose if you're a striker who's scoring goals, it helps. I mean, he played for Germany's under-16s when he was 12. He scored 50 goals as a 14-year-old in the Dortmund under-17s team. Last year, he's got over 30 already for the under-19s this year. I mean, scoring those level of goals, the attention is going to be on you sooner or later. And from Moukoko, like you say in Germany, they know all about him already.
And I'm quite sure we will see a lot of goals coming from Moukoko in the next few years.
Number 34 on the list is another famous name to get excited about.
For the next player on our list, we're joined by Renato Senesi. Renato, it's a pleasure.
My pleasure.
Renato, you are working for the Zone Brazil and you are a Palmeiras fan, right?
Big Palmeiras fan.
So I'm sure you've seen a lot from Gabriel Veron, right?
Gabriel Veron, he's a nice player. Yeah. He plays as a winger. He made his debut for Palmeiras last season, in November last season. In his second match for Palmeiras, he scored twice and gave an assist, but he became famous all around the world by his performance in the Under-17 World Cup. He scored 3 goals, he gave 2 assists, he won the Golden Boot as the best player in the tournament. Brazil won the tournament, so now he's famous and we are talking about him here.
Is there a player you could compare him to?
He's been compared to Gabriel Jesus, but only because Gabriel Jesus played for Palmeiras as well. Because he's more he plays more as a winger. Gabriel Jesus can be a winger as well, but he's more a striker. But in Brazil, it's like this. He's always compared with another player that played for the club. So, Gabriel Jesus it is.
Thank you, Renato.
You're welcome.
Into the 20s now, and a player who has already made a big impression on British soil.
We've added some expertise to our round. We're joined by Sue Smith. It's a pleasure.
Thanks, Alex.
Former England forward. You know a lot about our next player, Curtis Jones.
I do, yes. I'm from the blue half of Merseyside, but yeah, I've kept an eye on him and his progression. I watched him in the FA Cup game in the derby against Everton, and what a performance from him. I know that a lot of people were talking about his goal and how exceptional that was. It was very individual talent, wasn't it? But it's his overall performance in that game that really impressed me. The fact he wanted to get on the ball, he wanted to make things happen. He's a very confident young man, and Jurgen Klopp certainly thinks very highly of him.
Yeah, he's part of that the youth contingent that played in the Cups for Liverpool earlier on this season. But he's become a Premier League player in his own right as well. And Liverpool's youngest ever captain, their youngest scorer in a Merseyside derby. Certainly the youngest since Robbie Fowler all those years ago. We know how important it is for Liverpool to have that local representation in the team. He played under Steven Gerrard in the under-18s. And obviously they've got Trent Alexander-Arnold there as well. And they've got a new scouser in Curtis Jones that's going to represent them with distinction for the years to come.
Okay, Jurgen likes him, but can he give him enough playing time?
Well, there is a lot of competition for places at Liverpool, but Jurgen Klopp has identified him as one of the young players that will get a lot more playing time next season. He's an exceptional talent, and I think moving forward, he's going to be one of the key players for Liverpool.
Number 24 is a winger regarded as one of the best rising stars in Germany.
The next player on our list is number 24, Karim Adeyemi. He's got huge talent, but Peter, it wasn't an easy journey for him so far.
No, he was involved with Bayern Munich when he was very young, but there were a number of issues with Adeyemi behind the scenes when it came to his discipline and with his behaviour, and they actually let him go. And now we know that Unterhaching picked him up shortly after that and made sure that if his schooling wasn't right and his behaviour wasn't right, that well, he wouldn't get to play in the team. But he's got himself on the straight and narrow, and he earned a transfer to Salzburg, which, as we know, has not been a bad place for young players to develop in recent years.
No, not at all. I think if you can go to Salzburg and you can actually perform at a level, you see that the bigger clubs clearly look at that club, don't they? And they cherry pick them. Haaland, you mentioned Mane. But I suppose now clubs look at it's a holistic approach. So it's not just what you do on the field, it's also what you do off the field. So it is about your attitude, it's about your behaviour. So I suppose if you can get all of that right, then you've certainly got a great opportunity of succeeding. And it seems now he's certainly in that right frame of mind.
Did his coach in Unterhaching say he was born for the job? So he has to learn a lot, but he's got huge talent, Karim Adeyemi.
Next is the son of another familiar name who makes up a strong English-born contingent at Dortmund.
Peter, did you know that in my home country in Germany, right now everybody's talking about Erling Haaland? Yeah. He's playing for Dortmund, but there's another player, our number 23, Giovanni Reyna, also playing for Dortmund, and I think it's time to talk about him.
Giovanni Reyna, I think he's had the fortune this year of being able to develop in the shadow of Erling Haaland. It means that he can perform without that added pressure. But if you look back at the first leg against PSG, for example, that was his Champions League debut. What a performance Giovanni Reyna had in that game to follow up the goal he scored in the DFB Pokal as well. Now, this is a player of, I think, is immense potential and could be the greatest US soccer player of all time. Got that opportunity to develop in Europe rather than MLS because his family possessed, of course, the European passports, the Portuguese passport. And he's the son of two established US internationals, Daniel and Claudio Reyna. So this guy is he's a thoroughbred playmaker. And of course, because he's playing for Dortmund and because he's American, he's going to get compared with Christian Pulisic. But I think that Giovanni Reyna, on the development path that he's going on, can be even better than that.
Our 21 is the youngest player and goalscorer in Porto history.
When you play in Portugal and you are really talented, you have to be compared to Cristiano Ronaldo. Our number 21 is a guy who knows all about it, Fabio Silva.
Fabio Silva. It feels like this time last year we were talking about João Felix as the new Cristiano Ronaldo. Well, now Fabio Silva has appeared and he's the new Cristiano Ronaldo. He's a striker. He plays for Porto, their youngest ever player, youngest ever goal scorer. Spent some time developing in the Benfica academy, but he came home to Porto, the club that he joined when he was 8 years old. And again, 125 million release clause in his contract. This kid's on his way to superstardom.
At number 18, the only player to represent a club outside the top flight, and he's a precocious talent.
Our next player on the list is Pedri, and I can spoil you, he's the only player on our list not playing for top flight. He plays for Las Palmas, but that will change. He will sign with Barca, joining Barcelona. The right decision?
Absolutely the right decision. And you can see that what Barcelona are doing, they're trying to buy up whatever talent they cannot develop in their own academy. They're trying to buy up the best young talent from around Spain, and Pedri certainly fits that profile. He's a player who last August had never played a minute of competitive men's football. Within the space of 15 days, he played 3 matches for Las Palmas and had signed for Barcelona for €5 million. And his manager at the time, Pepe Mel, said he could be potentially era-defining for Barcelona if he continues along this development path. They're already comparing him to Andres Iniesta because of the style of play that he has. He can play either from the left or from the middle. And an interesting stat is when he went to play at the Under-17 World Cup last year, Las Palmas played 5 matches. They had 1 draw, 4 defeats. Shows you how important he is already, despite the fact that he's still just a teenager.
You can be sure he will be a huge loss for Las Palmas and a great win for Barcelona.
This player is already in double figures for assists this season and is eyeing an international call-up.
It's a difficult Premier League season for Arsenal so far, isn't it? Sue is joining us again. But when we look at our number 15, Bukayo Saka, can you give hope to all the Arsenal fans for a better future?
Yeah, definitely. And I watched him in pre-season and I watched him as a winger, and I thought great potential, you know, looks to beat his man, lots of pace, great dribbling ability, also great end product. You know, he gets his head up and picks a pass. And then obviously recently he's been playing either as a wing back or a full back, so I suppose he showed that versatility as a player. But yeah, future's certainly looking bright for Arsenal with players like Saka.
But Peter, isn't it important to find this one position you have the best skills for, or is it good to be versatile?
I think at his age it's probably good to be versatile, because the more positions you can play in, the more minutes you're going to get in the team. And this is a player that Arsenal had marked out not only for development but for first team football from the age of about 7 or 8. He was always so far advanced of his age group that they always knew from the moment he walked into the academy that he had the right character to make it. This is a guy whose schooling was spot on, behaviour was spot on, who has all the right influences around him. And the conditions for Saka at Arsenal right now are such that he could really end up in a top player for them and a top player for England in the future.
Number 14 is exciting French football in the same way the emergence of Mbappé did.
Now joining us again is Renato from the Zone, Brazil. Renato, our number 14 is Rayan Cherki. You know him quite good?
Quite good. Cherki is fantastic.
Many people compare him to Karim Benzema. Is that right?
I don't know if it's right, but I know that even Mbappé praised Cherki because of his skills. He's fast, he can play as a winger, as an attacking midfielder. Even up front, he's good with right foot, with left foot. So he's almost complete, and he's only 16 years old. And he's already the youngest player ever to score for Lyon.
Yeah, and it's Olympic product, Peter. Known for really good, education?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's the best academy in France and probably one of the best in the world. When you think about the quality of player that has come there recently, you mentioned Karim Benzema, but also Hatem Ben Arfa, World Cup winners like Nabil Fekir, and obviously Anthony Martial and Alexandre Lacazette, who have done the business in the Premier League, have come through there too. And Rayan Cherki was spotted at the same youth club that Nabil Fekir came through at, and he was spotted when he was just 7 years old. And the care and the attention and the dedication that Lyon put into their academy products, well, that's usually demonstrated when they reach the first team, that it is best academy in the world, and this guy is going right to the top.
So they did it again, the next young talent out of Lyon.
Into the top 10, and another Ajax prodigy tipped for the top.
Now we're in the top 10, and Peter, it took some time to hear the word Ajax in this show, right? Even though Ajax is known for being the best talent factory over decades, but now they did it again. They have Ryan Gravenberch.
Yeah, and you know, the Ajax model is predicated on the fact that they'll bring the young players through. So they don't necessarily want your Frankie de Jongs or your Matthijs de Ligts staying in the first team for 5, 6, 7 years. They need to get these guys out the way so they can bring the next generation through. And that's exactly what's happening this season in the midfield with Ryan Gravenberch. He's an elegant, a tall, upright player. They're comparing him to Paul Pogba in terms of his playing style. He was the youngest Ajax player in the history in the Eredivisie, and he was congratulated on that achievement by Clarence Seedorf, whose record he actually broke. And if he can go on and enjoy half the success in the game that Clarence Seedorf had, then you're going to see a very special player for the Netherlands and for Ajax in the future.
Yeah, we can already ask how long will he play for Ajax, right?
Well, that's it, you know. One or 2 seasons in the first team is plenty. Once they have 75, 100 matches, they'll go.
Number 9 is a player that Real Madrid have high hopes for.
Our number 9 should have been a Barca product, Takefusa Kubo. But Peter, it went different.
It certainly did. Barcelona, of course, had that intervention from FIFA a few years back where they breached the regulations for international transfers of young players. And as a result of that, young overseas players that were on their books, well, they had to go back. And one of the players that they had on the books at the time was Kubo. And he really did not want to leave Spain. But in order to continue his football career, even though he was so young, well, he had to move back to Japan. So he joined FC Tokyo, and in the process became the youngest ever J-League player, the youngest ever J-League goal scorer. And it wasn't long until he was back in Spain again, but it wasn't to Barcelona that he moved last summer. It was to Real Madrid.
Someone who's also seen a lot of this player in Spain is sports journalist Graham Hunter. Graham, this guy is being labeled as the Japanese Messi.
Poor old Taki Kubo. He can't get a first-team starting spot at Mallorca, and the coach is wrong about that. And so are people who compare him to Messi. His height is something that he turns to his advantage because he's pretty diminutive. But when players try to stop him, his centre of balance and his spurt away, that acceleration that every footballer prays to have, are special. But he's brave in a way that's nothing to do with where he puts his body. He's brave in that he always wants the ball, showing all the time. He's a leader, even as a diminutive young man, and somebody who's fighting to get first team space. He's a leader who will draw a game towards the team he's playing in. He's got goals and assists galore. This is probably going to be, I think, Japan's greatest ever footballer.
Now another Dutch player with high hopes of making it to the top.
You know what I'm a big fan of on number 8? It's Mohamed Ihattaren. And you know why? Because he's a real playmaker. There aren't too many these days, but he can be a real playmaker. You think he's number 10?
Yeah, I do, and I think you're right. In this day and age, you know, it seems that you're either a defensive midfielder or you're a midfielder like Kevin De Bruyne, for example. But it's rare to have somebody who can be described as a genuine playmaker, and we have that in Ihattaren. His idol when he was younger, he was shown clips of Ronaldinho. So that can tell you the type of influence that he's taken in his career already. Already well established in PSV, but again, it's a very good development club in the Netherlands, a bit like Ajax is. And I wouldn't expect him to be there too much longer.
At 7, a Korean star who blossomed at an early age.
Kang-in, our number 7, is just used to be famous. At the age of 6, he became the star of the Korean TV show Soccer Prodigy. And just last year, he became even more famous.
Yeah, that's right. South Korea and Ukraine might not be everybody's idea of a dream under-20 World Cup final, but that's what happened last year. And even though Ukraine won, it was Kang-in who took away the golden ball for the best player of the tournament, and well-deserved, a star of a very good South Korea team. And he'd already signed at that stage for Valencia. He went on trial there when he was much younger, earned a big deal, a 6-year contract when he was at Valencia, and that's since been improved with a bigger release clause. Because he's become the youngest Korean ever to play in the Champions League. And style-wise, this is a player at Valencia who they've compared to David Silva. So I think this guy, once he gets up and running in the senior game, he's going to have a big future at Valencia and a very good partnership, I think, with Son Heung-min at the sharp end of that South Korean national team.
Graham Hunter, you've seen him playing in Spain. What can you tell us about him?
I can tell you that Valencia are lucky that they've signed so well. This is a footballer who reads the game really well. Of all the guys we've talked about today, he probably plays deepest, but he has a little temper problem. And when the game isn't going his way, it's something he needs to channel because he's a lovely passer of the ball. And let's make this completely clear. Marcelino was removed as Valencia coach because the club said this South Korean must be playing first-team football more regularly than you want to. That's how good this kid, remember, already a World Cup finalist at his age group, is. He's got to mature, after which they've got a Rolls Royce.
It's been an astronomical rise for our number 6, from the lower tiers to the top.
Jürgen Klopp said Gabriel Martinelli is a talent of the century. His coach Freddie Ljungberg said he's like a Duracell bunny. We say Gabriel Martinelli is our number 6 on the next gen top list. And again with us is Renato. You know him because he's a Brazilian talent. English football fans, they really like him, especially Arsenal fans. But what about the people home in Brazil? Were they surprised that Arsenal bought him?
Yes, everyone was surprised because we knew about him, but he didn't have much time to show his quality. He played for Ituano, a really small club in Brazil, 4th division club, and then suddenly he played Campeonato Paulista. It's the most important regional tournament in Brazil. He scored 6 goals in 14 matches, and then Arsenal signed him. So we Brazilians, we didn't see so much about him, but we know he has talent.
Mm-hmm. And he might have played for a small club in Brazil like Ituano, but a lot of the European clubs, they were already aware of his talent. He had a trial at Barcelona, for example, where he made good friends with Ansu Fati, who's now playing in the Barcelona first team. And also he had 4 separate trials with Manchester United. They had a look at him. 4 months he played with Manchester United. And in fact he played an under-18 match with Mason Greenwood as a strike partnership up front. So although he was at Ituano in a small club, he wasn't plucked from nowhere. He was very much on the radar for those big European teams. And now he's showing the level that some of these scouts always thought that he would show.
Now a player who could be sold for big money very soon.
5 players left on our next Gen 2020 list, and number 5 is Eduardo Camavinga. Renato, it's a player with a defensive mindset, and you like it?
Yes, of course, it's good to have a defensive midfielder in the list. It's always all about strikers and attacking midfielders, but now we have a young player, only 17 years old, but he's good in tackles, good in interceptions, and he has a strong physicality. It's amazing how strong he already is. And I can say that he's kind of the modern player, you know, the definition of modern player. He's like the famous box-to-box player that every manager loves to have in the squad.
Yeah, and sometimes when you're young, it takes time to get popular, but this was the whole opposite, right?
Yeah, he was a viral sensation when Rennes, they beat PSG last year, and he was the star of the show against a team that was containing many world stars. Camavinga was the best player on the pitch, and straight away after the game, the 2.5-minute highlight reel from Camavinga went viral on a number of different platforms, and it just showed that he had the maturity, and again you mentioned the physicality, to compete at the very highest level despite that age, when he was only 16 at the time.
Another Brazilian wonder kid, next at number 4.
Another player from Brazil, the country where so many talented players were born. His name is Reinier, and he's compared to another Brazilian player, Kaká. He also played for Real Madrid. Reinier does now. Is that a good comparison?
It is a good comparison. As we always say in Brazil, there's always a comparison with another player, and Reinier is compared to Kaká. He's a midfielder, exactly as Kaká. He has the pace, he has the quality on the ball. I think he's stronger, physically stronger than Kaká, so maybe it's a good point for him. He became professional only last season for Flamengo. He played 14 matches in the Brazilian National League. He scored 6 goals. Flamengo won the league, and he was an important player for Flamengo.
Yeah, he only had this 1 year, but he had success over there.
Yeah, huge success. He played a minimal part, but he played a part nonetheless in the fact that they won the Copa Libertadores, which for a player that young is a huge experience. Now he's going to go to Real Madrid, where the pressure is going to be on eventually one day to complete the double and to win the Champions League along with it. And the manager, Jorge Jesus at Flamengo, he wasn't happy about this sale. He said if this guy moves for 30 million, it's a very, very bad idea. They should be getting a lot more money for him. But Real Madrid have got a very good deal here. And if you go back to the days when they signed Neymar, or when Barcelona signed Neymar ahead of Real Madrid, they made a promise to themselves that they were never again going to lose young Brazilian talents. And you look at players like Rodrigo, Vinicius and Reinier, they're really proving that point. No big Brazilian youngster is going to escape the clutches of Real Madrid anymore.
Reinier, our number 4 on the next Gen 2020 list. Let's find who our number 3 is.
Manchester United have had their fair share of young stars, and this guy is no different.
We arrived at the number 3 spot, and the bronze medal goes to Mason Greenwood. Sue's back on the bench with us. I heard you like him a lot, right?
I really do, and the fact that Manchester United let huge players go like Lukaku and Sanchez, they clearly rate this young man very, very highly. And when you watch him play, the fact that he's just as good with his left foot as he is with his right foot, he's so accurate. When he gets in front of goal, you know that he's at least going to test the goalkeeper. I've been really impressed with him this season.
Yeah, there are so many things he can do. Are there some things he has to improve?
Well, he did have a spell out of the first team earlier on this season, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, as manager, said that he needed to mature before he played regularly in men's football. So once he gets his mentality spot on, I don't think there's going to be any barriers to Greenwood becoming a top player for Man United and for England.
Mason Greenwood is our number 3. Let's have a look who's our number 2.
Our runner-up is a Barcelona player who has broken records throughout his career.
He has already broken several records, such as being the youngest ever to score in a Champions League game. His name is Ansu Fati. He plays for Barcelona together with the living legend himself, with Lionel Messi. So a great experience, but can this be, this team that is Messi's team, one day be Ansu Fati's team?
Yeah, well, you know, you mentioned the fact that he's playing alongside Messi. There's a beautiful picture of them together from when Fati just got into the Barcelona squad, and Messi is looking at Fati like he's his little baby son. And, you know, it just shows you how quickly time goes. I mean, it's not that long ago that we feel that Messi was that young player coming through with Barcelona himself. And Ansu Fati is an interesting case. He was at Sevilla, where his family was living. And he decided, you know, he couldn't stay off the radar of the big clubs for a long time, and he decided to move to Barcelona. Real Madrid had the opportunity to take him, but his father and Ansu himself made the decision to go to Barcelona because, crucially, the boys could live in residences close to the training ground rather than at Real Madrid, where they would have been out and about in the community. And that sort of dedication has really paid off because he's got into the team probably before his development should really have allowed it, due to injuries and Barcelona not being able to sign players and little things like that. And he's taken that opportunity beautifully. Ansu Fati, first team player at Barcelona already, and it looks like this guy could be going right to the top.
Yeah, he had a great start at Barcelona, but Renato, don't you think there's much pressure on his shoulders?
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure on his shoulders, exactly because he's from La Masia. And the last player who came from La Masia, who is a regular for Barcelona, is Sergio Roberto. And he made his debut in 2012, so 80 years ago. And now he's 20 years old, and he's playing as a right back, not even his original position. He was a midfielder in La Masia. So the Catalan press, the Barcelona fans, all of them are expecting Ansu Fati to be this next La Masia player.
So only one player left. It's time to find out who's the winner of Next Gen 2020.
Claro, você sempre trabalha, você sonha para ganhar prêmios assim tão importantes e acho que depois que se chega o momento que você recebe, acho que a ficha não cai ainda, mas só dizer que eu tô muito feliz e muito honrado por ter recebido esse prêmio. Não adianta eu ganhar o prêmio e não dar sequência dentro de campo. Acho que o primordial de tudo é dentro de campo. Acho que esse prêmio me motiva bastante, me dá muita confiança. E espero que seja assim, que eu continue essa temporada agora muito bem e é isso. A Real Madrid, assim como era na vida, é a realização de um sonho, né? Acho que quem me conhece sabe que o meu maior sonho era jogar aqui, nesse clube, que eu sempre gostei de ver os jogos. E essa foto aqui também foi do meu primeiro gol como jogador do Real Madrid. Acho que é uma emoção muito grande. Esse dia aqui vai ficar para sempre na minha memória. Uma relação muito boa, né? Graças a Deus, um cara que que me acolheu muito bem, me recebeu muito bem aqui, soube o tempo certo de me colocar para jogar, de me preparar. E hoje, graças a Deus, creio que eu estou bem. Ele tem muita participação nisso, porque ele me ajuda bastante. Todos os dias conversa comigo, fala no que eu tenho que melhorar, no que eu estou fazendo bem. Tem sido muito bom esse tempo com ele. Aqui é o maior sonho, né, de todo menino brasileiro. Vestir essa camisa, eu pude fazer até minha estreia num clássico, no nosso maior clássico contra a Argentina. E a realização de um sonho, espero vestir mais vezes, vou continuar fazendo meu trabalho aqui para voltar mais vezes lá na seleção. E essa é a realização do maior sonho, assim, como jogador profissional. Qualquer menino sonha que um dia vestir a amarelinha e eu pude realizar esse sonho.
Já deu tempo de parar de dizer que tudo que você tem conquistado é um sonho? Você vive literalmente uma realidade? É tudo real, literalmente?
Ah, acho que não. Acho que todos os dias vai ser sempre um sonho. Difícil falar que é uma realidade. Se eu falar que é uma realidade, eu vou estar mentindo. Acho que todos os dias eu vivo um sonho aqui.
We have a winner. Congratulations, Rodrigo, a player playing for Real Madrid, who showed huge talent, and he already showed that he can be really important for this club.
Yeah, the youngest ever player to score a perfect hat-trick in the Champions League, Rodrigo, scoring it against Galatasaray last November, and that kind of demonstrated, the ability that he has, and I suppose the promise that he has going forward for Real Madrid. And when you look at the attacking talent that they have alongside him at the club, Vinicius is obviously there as well, another Brazilian youngster. If he continues along this development path, I think that we've got a potentially world-class player in Rodrigo.
Renato, what do the Brazilians think about Rodrigo?
Brazilian people, Brazilian press follow Rodrigo since he was a teenager. It's exactly what happened with Neymar. And he finally made his debut for Santos with just 16 years old. In 2017, he played only 2 matches in that year. But then in 2018, he showed why he's so famous in Brazil. He played 57 matches, he scored 12 goals. He was the most important player for Santos. And we know Santos. Santos, he's another menino from Vila, a boy from Vila. Vila Belmiro is Santos Stadium, famous for having Pelé, for having Neymar, for having Robinho. And the Vila Belmiro had Rodrigo for a while as well.
Joining us again from Spain, Graham Hunter. Graham, do you think he can really go to the top?
Alex, I completely understand why Rodrigo is number one. So the exciting thing is there's even more to come. What do I mean by that? This is a kid who's got a lot of physical development to come. His brilliance is about being fast, he's clearly two-footed, and he's got an intuitive understanding of how to score. So it's not just hit and hope. He buries the ball where the keeper doesn't want it to be, but he's extremely small. Yes, he's young, but there are a lot of footballers of his age who don't need gym time, and he does. Once he completes that, and once he works a little bit on his discipline, don't forget he was sent off for Castilla at Real Madrid when scoring a goal and getting in a tango with a goalkeeper. The fans love him, he's a beautiful talent, the Real Madrid first team players love him. Rodrigo is a wonderful star in the making.
And when we look at the winner of last year, Jadon Sancho, it's a good sign, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's a prestigious honour to be given the Next Gen award. But when you look at Jadon Sancho, he's capitalised on the promise that he showed during his first few months at Dortmund to become not only one of the most important players at Dortmund, but probably one of the most impressive attacking players in the entire world. Now he's going to go to the European Championships probably with England and be a star there as well. And who knows, when his time finishes at Dortmund, as we all expect it might, and maybe in the next 12 months, maybe even this summer, he's going to go probably for a fee close to a world record fee, and he's going to be a star at whatever team he goes to for the next 10 years.
And Renato, when we try to have a look into the future for Rodrigo, what do you expect?
It's a tough question. I expect him to be a world-class player. I don't know if he's going to reach the same level as Neymar or Messi. I think it's impossible, or Cristiano, but he's definitely got the talent to be one of the most important players in the future.
Peter, you think he's right?
I think he's right, yeah. I think he's a very intelligent young player. I think the way that he sees the game from his position, it's a gift that not every young player has. Usually they have to be taught how to play the game because they have the physical gifts, but Rodrigo's a rare example of a player who seems to be able to see the game in a number of different dimensions from his own perspective. And to have that when you're still a teenager, I think is a unique gift.
and he's our Next Gen 2020 winner. Congratulations, and thank you guys. Thank you, Renato.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Alex.
So that's it from me and the team here. Don't forget you can catch up on the full list of stars by subscribing on thezone.com or by heading to goal. Thanks for watching.